How's it going, everybody? So we've got a fun review today as we're discussing The Nun II. Regardless of the fact that I talk about horror all year round on the channel, it's always a little bit more special once we get into that more spooky season, September, October. But what better way to kick off the spooky movie season than with a new entry in the Conjuring Universe, which kind of has felt like it's slowed down a little bit in recent years. We haven't had as many entries. In this sequel, we again follow Sister Irene as evil quickly is spreading and a priest is murdered, which leads her to once again come face to face with the demon nun Valak. Now, as fantastic as I think the character of Valak has been ever since they were introduced into the franchise back in The Conjuring 2, and in some ways I feel like the character has become synonymous when you think of The Conjuring, I was not a huge fan of the first Nun film. I was very much left underwhelmed after such an exciting introduction back in The Conjuring 2. In general, I found it to be quite paint by numbers, but we have seen with this franchise in particular, with Annabelle and then Annabelle Creation, the sequel usually can find some ways to be a massive improvement, and I'm happy to say I think they did that once again with the sequel to The Nun. The Nun 2 vastly improves everything from top to bottom as far as crafting a much scarier, fun, stylized horror film, and really goes all in as far as upping the ante in the scares department. Honestly, I was pretty impressed in the level of creativity put into these different types of scares and the effects used in the scares. You've seen some of them in the trailers, like the magazine rack scare, but there's some that you haven't seen in the promotional material that are pretty horrifying. At this point in time with The Nun 2, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this or not, but Michael Chavez has directed 3 out of the last 4 entries in the Conjuring universe, and gradually I feel like you are seeing the improvements as a director, because he started out with The Curse of La Llorona, which I was not a big fan of, and then there was some improvements in The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, and I think this is the best film in the universe he's directed so far, especially when it comes to developing creepy, dark atmosphere. I think that's what suits his style best. All of the moody atmosphere and building tension before Valak does make their appearance, all of that stuff gets pretty intense. There are a couple scares all throughout that even got me almost jumping out of my seat, just with the way that we build up to these sequences in a much better way than we did in The Nun, where it was just a lot of jump scares. I mean, there are still some jump scares, I mean, let's be real, but I think they're much better executed, because I'm not against jump scares, it's just you have to do them well. Plus, a major part of this film's success, I feel, is the fact that the story is surprisingly engaging. All around, it's a massive improvement compared to the original, because in the sequel, we have a much more meaningful exploration of several characters, and the cast overall is pretty solid, particularly Maurice and Sister Irene. Sister Irene really impressed me, because Tessa Farmiga wasn't really able to do a whole lot with the character in the original, unlike in this film where she's able to showcase a little bit more range with the character and give us a little bit more of a deeper understanding of where she's coming from, and you kind of feel bad for her because she has to deal with Valak once again. Not sure exactly why there's so much beef between the Nun and the Farmiga sisters, Tessa in these films and Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine Warren in The Conjuring. There are some new characters in The Nun 2 as well. One of the main standouts for me is Storm Reed, who I think is a great addition to the franchise. While I showered Michael Chavez with a lot of praise, I also want to give some praise to Akilah Cooper. Now, Akilah Cooper is not the only screenwriter on The Nun 2, but she has written some stuff you might have seen the last couple years. She helped write Malignant with James Wan and also helped write Megan with James Wan. So just those 3 films alone on your resume, that is an amazing track record, and I cannot wait to see her continuously get better and get bigger roles in horror, and hopefully just see her in general writing more things, because I'm just very impressed by her work the last couple years. What's also so cool about this sequel, other than the fact that Valak is much more present in the sequel, which is always a fantastic thing because Bonnie Aaron's always fantastic as the role, but we dig a bit deeper under the surface as far as the story behind the character. Even if slowly we are retroactively adding in more backstory to this character that was killed off in The Conjuring 2, I still found for the most part all of it to be pretty interesting. Overall, the story in The Nun 2, it's basically like 2 or 3 stories going on at the exact same time. Some of them are a bit less interesting than others. I would say there are 2 stories that I think are pretty fantastic, and then there's one that does kind of flame out by the time we get into the 3rd act. As someone that's been an OG fan of the Conjuring universe, I'm not entirely sure if all of these events are lining up anymore. I don't know if that's really something that people care about, because we've seen so many times in horror films, canon just goes out out the window a lot of the time. I mean, this franchise is no stranger to changing things up or adding things. Even the Nun as a character was added into the Conjuring 2. The Conjuring 2 didn't originally have Valak as a character. With where we take the events by the end of the Nun 2, it does have me intrigued on where exactly the story will go forward for the rest of the franchise, because there's some stuff in here that I think fans are going to be pretty excited about the future for, or maybe cautiously optimistic, or just cautious, and it's kind of hard to talk about without delving into spoilers. But I'll just say there's certain things in this movie that could impact the future rather significantly. Overall, The Nun 2 is a huge win in my book and an awesome film to kick off this fall horror movie season. It's thrilling, it isn't afraid to go there with its scares, and it pretty much gave me exactly what I wanted from the first Nun film that I didn't get until the sequel. One last thing, I also do want to make sure I let you guys know that there is a pretty amazing mid-credit scene that I think you're definitely going to want to stick around for. It's a pretty great one. But now I've heard my thoughts on The Nun 2. Make sure you share your thoughts down below. Once you get a chance to check out the film, what did you think of The Nun 2? Did you like the film? Did you not like the film? How are you feeling about the future of the Conjuring universe after this sequel? Share your thoughts down below in the comment section. As part of the fun is having that conversation with you guys in the comment section down below. And thank you guys, as always, to the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Next time, I'll see you guys later.